Before you chase another skill and quit halfway, hear the forgotten Japanese path that turns ordinary people into masters. Comment which skill your heart longs to master and join the path of stillness in every city. You look around and see the same scene repeated like a quiet tragedy. People rushing from one course to another, one hobby to the next, one big idea to yet another unfinished plan. They buy a guitar practice for a few weeks, then abandon it for a new language app, then drop that to chase a business dream that also gets left halfway behind. Every timeline is full of productivity tips. Every shelf holds books about success. Yet inside there is the same bitter feeling. I know a little about everything, and I am truly good at nothing. We tell ourselves stories, maybe they are gifted, maybe they were born with special talent, and slowly that lie becomes a blanket to hide our frustration. What almost no one suspects is that centuries ago in old Japan, ordinary peasants and unknown youths faced the same fear of staying mediocre, but they found a path, a silent method that could turn a nameless boy into a legend. It did not depend on talent or luck, it depended on walking this path to the end. That ancient path has a name, Shuhari, and once you understand it the way you learn anything in life, will never be the same again. Yamato was just a village boy, yet inside him lived a longing so fierce it felt like a second heartbeat. While other boys accepted the quiet rhythm of farm life, he spent his days watching samurai walk past the fields, studying the steadiness of their steps, the calm in their eyes, the way their presence alone reshaped the air around them. At 16 he carved a wooden sword and believed pure effort would carry him forward. He rose before dawn, copied every stance he had, glimpsed and pushed himself until his arms trembled. He devoured old texts, memorized names of techniques, absorbed codes of honor, but none of it became real inside his body. Each swing felt awkward, each movement collapsed the moment he tried to control it. A full year passed and nothing changed. He felt the same frustration so many of us feel today when we drown ourselves in theory but cannot translate knowledge into action. Then one quiet afternoon, as he practiced alone, a voice cut through the forest, telling him that everything he was doing was wrong. It was the voice of a true samurai, whose presence revealed a truth Yamato had refused to face. He was not training, he was perfecting mistakes, and that single moment would change the rest of his life. The next morning at dawn, Yamato stepped into the clearing with a mixture of hope and fear. The samurai stood waiting and declared the beginning of Shu, the first stage of the path. In this stage, there would be no creativity, no questioning, no personal flair, only obedience. Yamato was told to mirror the master's stance precisely. The samurai shifted his foot 2 centimeters left, adjusted his hip by a single degree, lifted his shoulder just a fraction, and ordered Yamato to breathe in a rhythm of 3 seconds. In 2 seconds, hold 4 seconds out. They stayed frozen like that for 10 full minutes, until Yamato's legs shook and his pride screamed, "This cannot be real. Training when? Are we going to learn actual strikes?" he whispered. The samurai turned slowly and said, "Mastery is built in millimeters, not miles, and the basics you find boring are the foundation of every technique you dream of learning." Weeks passed, then months. Yamato repeated simple movements thousands of times until boredom dissolved into something quieter. His posture settled, his breath aligned, and one day during a horizontal strike, his body moved perfectly without thought, as if the sword itself was guiding. To him it was the first spark of true Shu, and it changed everything. 6 months into Shu, Yamato could perform 12 basic techniques as naturally as breathing. His master even woke him one night and demanded a vertical strike, and Yamato's body executed it flawlessly before his mind fully awakened. Yet this progress brought a new kind of confusion. He began to notice other warriors, some older, some with broader training, who could list hundreds of techniques. They spoke proudly about every kata, every ancient master, every elaborate form, but when Yamato, he watched them fight, he sensed something hollow beneath the surface. They possessed knowledge but not embodiment. Their movements were correct, yet lifeless. Their bodies hesitated at moments. When instinct he should have taken over one morning, Yamato finally asked why those who knew so much fought worse than he did. The master smiled and replied that these warriors were trapped in the eternal student's hell. They collected methods the way children collect toys, always chasing the next new thing, never allowing any technique to sink deep enough to live within them. It was the difference between owning a map and walking the land itself. Yamato understood then that Shu was not a prison but a doorway, and most people never crossed it because they refused to repeat long enough for their bodies to truly learn. When the master finally declared that Yamato was ready for the young warrior felt both triumph and unease. Meant breaking the circle that had shaped him for so long. But the master warned him that most people misunderstand this stage. They rebel too soon, not out of wisdom but impatience. They want to innovate before they have truly learned. Yamato would not make that mistake that afternoon. The master introduced a second instructor, a warrior whose style contradicted everything. Yamato had practiced. His posture was high, not low. His strikes explosive, not economical. His philosophy aggressive instead of patient. At first, Yamato's mind fractured, trying to shift between these worlds. His movements tangled. His confidence wavered. It felt like unlearning everything he had worked for months to perfect. But slowly, after many weeks, something subtle began to reveal itself beneath the contradictions. Both styles were teaching the same invisible principles: how energy travels through the body, how timing emerges from presence, how intention shapes technique. The forms were different, but the truth beneath them was one. Morning, Yamato instinctively blended a defensive stance from his first master with a counterattack from the second, creating a movement that belonged to neither. And the masters smiled, knowing had truly begun the final stage. The master said is called RI, and it is the stage almost no one reaches because it demands the courage to release everything. You have worked so hard to learn. RI is where techniques fall away, where the body responds without waiting for the mind, where movement flows without needing names or categories. Yamato struggled to understand how anyone could fight without techniques, until the master shared a humbling story from his youth. He once believed he had mastered the sword after decades of training, hundreds of techniques, and a reputation feared across the region. Then an old man, nearly 80 years old, challenged him and defeated him in 3 effortless movements, none of which resembled any known style. It was like fighting water, the master explained. He no longer used techniques, he simply responded. Those words echoed through Yamato's training for the next 5 years, years in which the master stopped teaching him anything new. Yamato fought opponents of all styles, all levels, and all temperaments. At first his mind still tried to choose which technique to use, but gradually labels dissolved, decisions disappeared, and one day in the middle of a chaotic fight against 3 attackers, Yamato realized afterward that he had no memory of choosing any movement. His body had simply acted. His master watched and nodded. This is when the warrior and the skill become one. Yamato's mastery was no longer confined to the battlefield. It became a quiet force, shaping the way he learned anything new. And this is where his story reaches beyond the forests. Part of old Japan into the chaos of our modern world. Today people chase shortcuts as if mastery were a destination. You reach through hacks, tutorials, or inspiration. In 30 seconds they skip Shu because repetition feels dull. They skip because contradictions feel confusing, and they dream of without ever touching real discipline. We live in an age where attention shatters easily, where everyone wants to create their own style before learning any foundation, where people quit a craft the moment progress slows. Yamato's journey exposes the truth behind this restlessness. He showed that brilliance does not come from talent or constant novelty, but from surrendering to a path long enough for depth to emerge. Imagine applying Shuhari to guitar, to programming, to writing, to any pursuit. Shu would mean patient imitation. Ha would mean discovering the principles that unite different approaches, and Ri would be the moment solutions appear before thought arises. Not magic, but mastery shaped slowly over years. Yamato proved that the path is universal, but only for those who dare to walk it from beginning to end. Yamato lived to an old age, his name whispered with respect long after the battles of his youth had faded. Yet when asked for his greatest regret, he spoke with disarming honesty. He wished he had entered Shu sooner. He wished he had not wasted an entire year believing he could invent his own way before mastering the path that countless warriors had walked before him. His confession carries a timer. weight that stretches across centuries because it mirrors the silent regret of many people today who drift through hobbies, careers, passions without ever choosing one skill. To commit their life to the truth is that Shuhari is not only a way, learning framework, it is a mirror showing who we are when no one is watching. The impatient version of us wants quick results, wants creativity without discipline, wants mastery without repetition, but there is another version waiting patiently inside a version, willing to imitate with humility, to practice until the body understands, to explore principles deeply, and finally to release form. When intuition awakens, the question is not whether Shuhari works. It always has. The real question is whether we are willing to pay the price that mastery demands. Choose one skill, one teacher, one path, and walk it fully like Yamato did, and your life will never be the same.